Welcome to Politics Done Right. I am your host, Egberto Willies. This is a progressive program that will take the mystery out of politics. This is the program that will encourage you to make sure government becomes we the people. Whether you are liberal, progressive, conservative, or otherwise, you get to air your point of view. We are an independent media outlet that, unlike mainstream media beholden to corporations, we only owe allegiance to you. Remember, you can also send me a tweet at EGBERTOWILLIES. That is at Egberto Willies. Let us engage. It is Politics Done Right. Well, folks, welcome to one more edition of Politics Done Right. I'm Egberto Willies, your host. Thank you so kindly for being part of the show. We are going to have a great show for you today. As usual, how are my peeps doing? I trust everybody's doing fine. Welcome aboard. Bridge MCP is in the house from Binghamton, New York. We also have E2247 from all over in the house. We have Melanie Keelan from Barcelona, Spain in the house. We have Lee Grant from Montgomery County in the house. We have, of course, Yvette Avery Herod, our union expert in the house. Welcome aboard, my dear, beautiful senorita or senora, Yvette Avery Herod. Welcome aboard, Michael Rutnin from Brooklyn, New York, home of my own uncle who lives in Brooklyn, New York. Unfortunately, he's been spending the last couple of weeks in the hospital in Brooklyn, but he's doing a lot better. I got the news today that the surgeon said he's doing a lot better. So I'm happy about that. I don't have to run and make a Brooklyn trip anytime soon. That is a great thing. Although I would love to. I like Brooklyn. The Panama section of Brooklyn remind me of being in Colón in Panama. But yeah, so absolutely. Next time I go to Brooklyn, I'm going to say, hey, Rudnan, meet me at the coffee shop. Let's go ahead and shoot the bull some. Anyway, let's get busy. Starting with Bridge MCP, Bridge says, Egberto, let us not forget Trump held back money from Puerto Rico hurricane, causing them to be without power for almost 200 days. 2019 article, fact check. Trump says Puerto Rico got $92 billion. They've seen only a fraction. Congress has allocated $42 billion in disaster aid for Puerto Rico, according to federal data, but the island had received less than $14 billion through May. President Donald Trump falsely claimed in a pair of tweets Thursday that Congress had foolishly sent $92 million of aid money to Puerto Rico, which squandered away or wasted much of it. Trump delayed disaster aid for hurricane devastated Puerto Rico and diverted money from the Federal Agency Management Agency in order to finance an effort to return undocumented migrants to Mexico. Yeah, we know. We actually know. But look, let me tell you, Bridge, I think you're going to like that I did mention that in my monologue that I'm going to play for you, the edited monologue from this morning's program at KPFT. But thank you for bringing that up. That's a very you actually added some stuff that I didn't have in a monologue, which was 200 days without electricity because of Trump and not putting the investment into the show. Egberto, I see the topic for today's show. Yes, Bratnin, yes. E2247 says Hurricane Milton is sustained as a Cat 5 and will hit Florida West Coast 1 a.m. dark Thursday. Well, actually, it dropped to a Cat 3. I think it is still a Cat. I think it's a Cat 4 now, but I think it's a Cat 4 now. It was at 175. It's at 155 the last time I saw the update. So it dropped 20 miles off. And supposedly they think it's going to drop to a strong 3. We'll see what happens. We'll see what happens. All right, continuing. We've got para ver. Michael Rudden says CNN fact check 6 days of Trump lies about the Hurricane Helen response. Trump falsely claims Biden hasn't answered calls from Georgia governor. Trump cites baseless reports about anti-Republican bias in North Carolina response. Trump falsely claimed the Biden-Harris response had received universally negative reviews. Trump falsely claims Harris spent all her FEMA money on housing illegal migrants. Trump false claims $1 billion was stolen from FEMA for migrants and has gone missing. Trump falsely claims the federal government is only giving $750 to people who lost their income. Trump falsely claims there are no helicopters, no rescue in North Carolina. But I mean, the thing about it is the people voted for Trump knows he's a liar. If they know he's a liar, why do they think he would do anything that he's saying? Which actually tells you that their vote for Trump has other reasons behind it. And I would like for my MAGA brothers and sisters to tell me what the real reason is. But we know it's not that you have faith in Trump. We know that it's not that you think Trump is honest. We know that you don't think Trump is moral. So how can you vote for him? Why? Where is the moral position that Liz Cheney, a complete conservative, a woman that I share nothing in common with other than loving the nation? Think about that. Liz Cheney and her dad. As much I hate their policies, I think their dad is a war criminal. But when it comes to being a patriot, I can't argue that point. They're proving it. Actions speak louder than words. Donald Trump just speaks. Liz Cheney gave up a career. Liz Cheney gave up a career. A woman, a woman that it is already hard to have attained the position that Liz Cheney had attained. How do you give that up? All Liz Cheney had to do was be quiet. That's all. Liz Cheney didn't have to say anything. She just had to keep her mouth shut and ride the wave. But she said, I love my country too much. It's difficult for a woman to have attained what she has or had. But she said, I will do the honorable thing. I will do the moral thing. I will do the patriotic thing. And I hope others eventually see it. I tell you something else, it might shock you guys. But if a charlatan was to come up to run against, if Liz Cheney were to run for president, and a charlatan of a neoliberal Democrat came and ran against her, I would vote for Liz Cheney because Liz Cheney has proven to me that she puts country over politics. Liz Cheney has proven to me that she puts country over politics. Of course, I don't know. I don't know that a neoliberal politician of that caliber could get through the Democratic primary. So that's a choice I may never have to make. All right. Michael Rudden says conservatives have created a social media bubble where truth doesn't matter, and it's finally adversely affecting them. Yep, and you'll hear that in my monologue. Because of what Bridge and a couple of you sent me with respect to those politicians who voted against their people, I included that in my monologue on KPFT today, and I'm writing a blog after the program to include the actual names and links to these politicians who voted against their own interests with the expectation that people will flood them and understand that these guys need to be removed from office by elective process, of course. All right, these are Gaza only stats and do not include. I think you're talking about the occupied territory. This is pretty much normalized, so we grieve. Mid-September, UNICEF served 5% of pregnant and breastfeeding women consume dairy. 6% of kids eat any meat. North Gaza, those respective percentages fall to 1% to 3% and 3%. Day 368 of the war, at least 41,965 Gaza killed, 470 persons more than day 355. 139 casualties equal 379 per day. You know what? I don't know if this is too much to ask you, but you know what numbers we need to start getting? We need to start getting the West Bank numbers, and we need to start getting the Lebanon numbers. Anyway, it's filled up with the stuff. All right. You know what? It's so funny. DeSantis says Kamala Harris doesn't need to call him, right? And he gives a passionate rebuke of Kamala Harris calling to see what the administration can help with, right? But at the same time, Trump is trying to say the reason things aren't working right with the hurricane is because Kamala is failing. So DeSantis and Trump are on different wavelengths. Do you want Kamala to be a part of the government that's working? Or do you think that she is just irrelevant? DeSantis thinks she's irrelevant. So don't accuse, if DeSantis thinks she's irrelevant, then don't accuse her of anything having to do with the hurricane or monies going from the monies that you guys are accusing her of moving. Then you're making a silly statement. Don't you guys ever see the cyclical bubble that you're in? A cyclical bubble that makes no sense? Padre mía, por favor, esa gente no ni saben cómo pensar. All right. There's Michael Ryan says there's a couple of Panamanian neighborhoods in Brooklyn. Nearest me, one by me, is Flatbush. It's a bit of a trip for me to get there, 30-minute bus ride. Hey, but you know what you're gonna like out there, buddy? The patacones con hojaldas, man. Patacones, or you would actually love the carimañolas. That's smashed yuca with ground beef, spicy ground beef in the middle, fried. Oh my God. Not the best health food, but talking about gastronomic hurricane, a positive hurricane, that is. All right. Michael Ranez says Milton highest sustained winds were at 180. I know it's right now as Bridget MCP says a cat 4. All right, Eric Hayes, Bad Orange Man, handle getting shot at then VP did what? Okay, next one. All right, next one. The guy got a tinge on his ear, but nobody should be no attempt murder should be occurring on anybody. All right, but he says the Saint then won't take any calls from Biden or Harris. Oh, he's not taking a calls from Biden either because he said the federal government is working fine for him. So we'll see. All right, let's see what else we got. Steigen Bergen Greek, how you doing, my friend? Because MAGA is more important to him than American people. True. Breach says MAGA have no morals or empathy. They prove it all the time. All right. On our Saturday program, many of us on the left were pretty much chastised for saying things in a particular manner. But we just heard Breach give a statement that is simply based on the actions of those who classify themselves as MAGA. And that would be inclusive to my sister as well, right? In other words, and it's a question that I ask all of the time. Is it a moral thing to vote the leader of the world, somebody who rapes women, somebody who steals money, somebody who goes ahead and maligns other nations, somebody who lies in the manner that Trump lies? Is it moral to do that? It's not. Is it good for your kids? It's not. Is it a good example for you as a parent to point out to that kid that you know how to do the right thing? It's not. Okay? I mean, once you go out there and especially for those of you who talk about law and order, once you go out there and do that, one cannot consider that behavior moral. Now, my next question to, let's say, those people who are on the right of me and castigate me for tonality, which I am modifying right now, like I promised on Saturday. I won't specifically make a personal attack, which I've always tried not to do. That's what I wrote here in It's Worth It, How to Talk to Your Right-Wing Relative, Friends, and Neighbor, my book, right? But I think it is incumbent and it is for me as a host, as an activist, it would be malpractice for me not to tell the truth. It would be journalistic malpractice. It would be ethical malpractice not to point out that my daughter, I have a very smart daughter, would look down at me if she saw me place a vote for a thief, a rapist, and somebody who, I mean, she would says, "Daddy, you taught me well. How can you then vote for that guy?" The thing about it is, I don't have to answer that question because I am not voting for that guy. Liz Cheney, a very conservative Republican, doesn't have to answer that question because she's not voting for that guy. You know? Uh, so let's be clear. All right. So let's not mistake civility for not telling the truth to those who don't want to hear it. Let's not mistake civility for not telling the truth. You know, I told this story to my audience on KPFT, and a woman that was on her way to work called me up and she called me out and she said, "You don't listen to those who try to curtail your voice of truth." And I took her message, I took umbrage to her message. And what I wanted to tell her before she hung up, however, was I will tell the truth. I will watch the tonality in which it's done. It's in which it's done. All right. Michael Radney says Liz Cheney believes that democracy is worth preserving. It's pretty much the only shared aspect. That is true. That is probably the only thing. No, we also probably share certain values of humanity as well, even though we don't share things like women's rights, etc. You know, so that's what I said. And Eric, I wouldn't have normally answered this, but I just want to show you how easy it is for the Trump style statements to rub off. Look, and I this one here, I am singling you out on this one, my brother, with the expectations that you will change that behavior and others that follow that would change it. Eric writes in the chat, no one voted for Liz in her own state. Okay. Michael, I don't have it on the screen right now. Please look up the election for Liz and tell me what percentage of the vote she received, please. Please tell me what percentage of the vote she received. And then I want to expand on that after you find that. Let's see what else we got here. Para ver, Michael says, Eric, that tells me a lot more about MAGA than anything else. Liz Cheney demonstrated that she's an American patriot and the Republican Party rejected her. Exactly. Let's see what else we got here. We got Farabet. I'm going down. I'm going down. I'm going down. I'm going down. Bree says there's no Republican Party anymore. It's just MAGA. Any self-respecting Republican won't speak up. That says something. They're scared for their own life. Trump supporters are under a mistaken belief that Trump is an anti-war candidate. He's really not. Foreign Policy Magazine calling Trump an anti-imperialist is nonsense. The anti-war left shouldn't fall for this dishonest pitch. They should. Let's see what else we got. Going down. Carl Cox says, uh, New York Times reports that when Trump puppet gave Putin, puppet master, free COVID-19 vaccines when he was president, Trump also calls Putin every so often since he lost presidential race for orders. That's what the book pretty much implies, isn't it? That's what it implies. Okay, let me scroll down. Lee Grant says the Trump Musk alliance speaks volume. Yep, two thieves. Two thieves. You know, that's two thieves. You're right. That alliance proves something. Two thieves. So to give you an answer right there. All right, let's keep going down. Because I got to get that video started in a minute. I got to get that video. So let's see if Michael Rudden gave me that number. Uh, okay. Egberto Willis, did you know this? Usha Vance, the wife of Donald Trump's newly tapped running mate, Ohio Senator J.D. Vance, previously clerked for two Supreme Court justices, leading leading to some commenters online expressing concerns over potential implications for future court rulings. It did not take long for attention to turn to Usha Vance, who was most recently a corporate litigator at a firm which represent clients in the entertainment, technology, energy, health, and care industry, according to her LinkedIn profile. However, some of her previous roles quickly started gaining some scrutiny, notably her clerkship for Brett Kavanaugh before he was appointed to the Supreme Court, and current Chief Justice John Roberts, both men up to the highest court to 6-3 majority. I didn't know that. See, I learned something from my people every day. Liz Cheney got 29% of the vote. So therefore, Brother Eric lied. She got almost a third of the vote. She got almost a third of the vote, which means, and that is about the number, about a third of the Republican base isn't MAGA. Now, it's a smaller number that's willing to tell you that, but about a third isn't MAGA. But what happens is the statement that Eric made there just shows you how easy Trump has made lying. That even as you can corroborate the information, even as you can call out the lie, right? Even as you can call out the lie, they don't mind putting out the lie. All right, let's see. Let's go ahead and put it up for those who don't, who are limited in seeing it. Let's go ahead and put that up there. There it is. Wyoming at large congressional district. Liz Cheney got about a third of the vote. There you go. And to put it bluntly, you know, to put it bluntly, it's a small number of votes. But that most, there we go. Whatever the case is, whatever the case is, we don't lie here. We only tell the truth. All right, folks, let's go ahead and continue with the program. And here is this morning cleaned up monologue. I want to touch on a subject called projection. With the problems occurring with the hurricane in several states, Donald Trump is infusing people's minds, the people that listen to him, the people on Fox News, and he have all these other parrots repeating that things like Biden administration is not helping the Republican areas of the states that have been inflicted with all this damage at all. And he's making mention of all these types of issues, which are patently false. They are lies. And with Trump, what you notice is the things that he said. He on a campaign trail now. He's saying if Kamala Harris is elected, it's the end of democracy, and you will lose the freedom to speak, the freedom of the press, etc. All these things he's saying, and I want everybody to keep in the back of their minds that magical word called projection, because as he speaks, much of what he's saying is the way he feels, the things he does. The classic example is talking about not helping certain areas of the country. As every Republican governor and senator in the destructed areas have said so far, working with this administration was not simple. It was easy. In fact, it's not only that they had to reach out to the administration for help and support. The administration called on them before they called the administration. The administration called. Biden called the governor of Georgia before the governor of Georgia called him to ask, how can I help? The governor of Georgia called back and said, thank you for the help. I'll let you know as it goes on what I need. The Democratic governor of North Carolina said the same. The Republican senator of North Carolina said the same. DeSantis, no Biden lover, said the same thing, even as he refuses right now to take calls from Kamala Harris, who wants to know, how can I help? A big storm, one bigger than expected, one bigger than forecast, is about to hit Florida in the Tampa area. Florida has been getting a lot of hurricanes, but they've been lucky. Florida has a lot of areas in the Big Bend, in the Bend portion, that isn't very well populated. So if you notice, most of the damage from this last Hurricane Helen has been found in the mountains of North Carolina, places that don't expect hurricanes or the results that hurricanes can leave inland. They don't expect that, but they got hit harder than did Florida, because Florida got hit in the best regions, those best regions being unpopulated areas. Well, they may not get this lucky this time. Tampa has been getting to the left and the right of hurricanes over the last several years, but haven't been taking direct hits of strong hurricanes. And now it seems like their luck may have run out. As I see what is happening in Tampa, I fear for Houston, Texas, where this broadcast emanates from. Why? Because the damage a direct hit would give to us would make whatever direct hit that goes through Tampa pale in comparison, because it wouldn't only mean destruction for much of the shoreline in the Houston metropolitan area, meaning Pasadena, meaning all those areas where we have a ton of oil refineries that pump gas through pipelines throughout this country. We are talking about the massive failure of our energy and economic system if we get a direct hit and water goes up the ship channel and destroys shipping, destroys the oil refineries, etc. Again, because of climate change, because of poor regulations to protect us in the case of a disaster. So disaster is about to hit upon Tampa, in that area, with the same sensibility we should have for what could happen to Houston next year. Houston, a much bigger city. Houston, a much more important city from an energy standpoint, from a shipping standpoint, etc. So for all of those that are listening to my voice right now, elected officials, both on the state level, we have the organization that controls our energy sector. I can't recall the name of it right now, both environmentally and regulatorily here in Texas. And we should ask the important questions. Are we ready? Does the election of people who believe in science versus rhetoric matter? I started the discussion with projection, because that's what we get from a whole lot of our Republican politicians day in and day out. And we have Donald Trump again claiming that somehow the response is party based. We have the Republican governors, senators, etc. of the affected states saying otherwise. But what we have now is evidence that Donald Trump, with his projection, is actually not, we won't have to say he would do that. We can say that we know for a fact he contemplated doing that. Politico reports the following. In the aftermath of Hurricane Helen, former President Donald Trump has blasted the Biden administration for its handling of the disaster, going so far as to accuse Democratic leaders of ignoring the needs of Republican storm victims. That's a lie. Now, we know that's projection. How? But a review of Trump's record by Politico's E&E News and interviews with two former Trump White House officials show that the former president was flagrantly partisan at times in response to disasters, and on at least 3 occasions hesitated to give disaster aid to areas he considered politically hostile or ordered special treatment for pro-Trump states. Mark Harvey, who was Trump's senior director for resilience policy on the National Security Council staff, told E&E News on Wednesday that Trump initially refused to approve disaster aid for California after deadly wildfires in 2018 because of the state's Democratic leanings. But Harvey said Trump changed his mind after Harvey pulled voting results to show him that heavily damaged Orange County, California, had more Trump supporters than the entire state of Iowa. Only after he was convinced that, hey, there are Trump voters that are being affected, did he say, okay, I will go ahead and assist. Another one, they love me in the panhandle. In 2019, shortly after taking office, Governor Ron DeSantis met with Trump at the White House to ask a favor. Months earlier, while DeSantis was running for governor, Hurricane Michael had caused massive damage in the Florida Panhandle. DeSantis asked, would the president order the Federal Emergency Management Agency to pay 100% of the recovery cost instead of its customary 75%. This is Trump country and they need your help, DeSantis told the president, according to the Republican governor's autobiography. The courage to be free. They love me in the Panhandle, Trump replied, according to DeSantis' book pushing in 2023 as he was preparing for run for president. I must have won 90% of the vote. They're huge crowds. What do they need? On March 2019, Trump signed an order directing 100% of most disaster costs in Florida. As a result, FEMA paid roughly $350 million more than it would have without Trump's intervention. Again, an area they voted for me. I am going to change the law and I'm going to give you 100% of the coverage. But less than 2 months earlier, Trump threatened to veto a disaster aid measure in Congress that would have FEMA pay 100% of all disaster costs in Puerto Rico and the U.S. Virgin Islands after Hurricane Maria killed more than 3,000 people. The White House said in January 16, 2019 policy statement that it strongly objected to the proposal. Cost shares are critical to ensure that work with impacted jurisdictions is collaborative and that both partners have incentives to operate efficiently and control costs, the Trump Office of Management and Budget wrote. The legislation failed in the Senate. So as you can see, it is projection when he talks about other governors trying to somehow base their support on whether people voted for them or not. It is Trump who did that. It is Democratic administrations like Biden and Obama's. Remember Obama's embrace of the New Jersey governor, Chris Christie, which almost got Christie in trouble because, again, he hugged a Democrat. He showed some humanity. So, folks, who you elect matters. If you elect super partisanships, politicians that only lie to you, it matters. There are several of them going around the country right now, lying to you about illegal immigrants eating cats and dogs to create friction. They're threatening people with legal immigration status to throw them out of the country. They're threatening right now to go ahead and do all of these things, not just to immigrants, but to you. And what do I mean by to you as well? Well, as you know, there is climate change, and we have the partisan Republican elected officials choosing to disregard it, to make believe it doesn't exist, and their votes reflect that. And if we take a look at their votes, we'll say, well, it doesn't matter if they say these things because we know the government will be there for them. Well, FEMA needs money now because the disasters are getting more massive. And so we pass bills to do that. Well, let's get clear here. There's a list that who voted against FEMA relief before Helene battered their home states. Several Republicans that many Republicans elected voted against the interests of those who elected them. My question to all of you who voted for your state reps, who voted for the people who are representing you in Congress, who voted against your best will, what should be there to protect you. Do they deserve your vote again? Let's get clear. North Carolina. I'm going to make sure to name you the people. Again, we're listened to all over, not only live, but in podcasts. So I want you to open your ears here, people. These are people who voted to say, let's not give you a penny if a disaster hits you, even though these are the same people that are voting to protect those industries that are exacerbating climate change, that are exacerbating the things that affect you most, with both pollution, with weather, with regulations that ensure that these corporations won't dump crap in your creeks, won't pollute your groundwater. These are the same guys. So let's get started. North Carolina. Who voted against it? Senator Ted Budd. Who voted against FEMA? Dan Bishop, North Carolina 8th District. In South Carolina, another hard-hit area. Representative Jeff Duncan of the 3rd District in South Carolina. Russell Fry of the 7th District in South Carolina. Nancy Mace of the 1st District in South Carolina. Ralph Norman of the 5th District in North Carolina. And William R. Simmons in the 4th District of South Carolina. They said with that vote, you shouldn't get a penny. And at the same time, their master, Donald Trump, is saying, hey, you're not getting the money that you deserve after these guys voted against it. In Georgia, Richard McCormick, representative from Georgia District 6, Marjorie Taylor Greene, MTG, 14th District in Georgia. Are you going to elect that mouthpiece again? After she voted by saying, my district gets affected by the weather, don't give us any money. Mike Collins, Georgia, 10th District. Andrew S. Clyde, Georgia, 9th District. Okay, Florida is about to get plastered by yet another hurricane, less than 3 weeks apart. But Daniel Weber from the 11th District said no to FEMA. Michael Waltz from the 6th District says no to FEMA. Bill Posey from the 8th District said no to FEMA. Corey Mills from the 7th District says no. Anna Paulina Luna from the 13th District says no to FEMA. Laurel M. Lee, Florida 15th District, says no to FEMA. Matt Gaetz, the guy who has been accused for underage, messing with kids, 11th District. Byron Donalds from Florida, the 1st District. Kat Kamek, Florida, 3rd District, voted against FEMA. All these people that I'm naming voted against FEMA. Gus M. Bilirakis, Florida, 12th District. Aaron Bean, Florida, 4th District. Rick Scott, the Senator Rick Scott of Florida, abstained, refused to vote. In other words, he did not vote for FEMA. Your senator did not vote for FEMA, yet they are begging for monies as the storm effects comes to them. Tennessee, and Representative Tim Burchett, Tennessee 2nd District. Andrew Ogles, Tennessee 5th District. John W. Rose, Tennessee 6th District. Okay, let's talk about Tennessee senators now. Marsha Blackburn voted against FEMA. Bill Haggerty, senator, voted against FEMA. Both senators from Tennessee voted against the support of their people that they represent. Will you, the people in those states, send these people who denied your interests, voted against your interests, continue to vote against your interests, not just because of FEMA, but because of policies that would mitigate climate change, but because of policies that would mitigate polluting your groundwater, voting against policies that would mess with your farmers, but because of ideology, you just blindly support these people? Our government is we the people. Our government represent who we are. Our government is a snapshot every 2 years of who we are. And if they're telling you who they are with their vote, maybe we should all start listening. Maybe that's why Texas actually just may make a turn this year and start voting in the aggregate. I'm not talking about just Harris County, but if you start looking at the polls, people may start voting again in Texas by hook or crook. Texas may become the state, that progressive state in voting before anybody expected. Will that be the case? It will be the case if you go out there and do your job. It will be the case if one starts to vote their interests. Folks, stop being hoodwinked. Your vote matters. Those people in Tampa, Florida are going to see that their vote mattered because they have Joe Biden and Kamala Harris in office. There is a funded FEMA.
that will protect them. It will protect them as they are devastated by the storm. It'll protect them because they have the right administration in power, because they have a responsible administration in power, because they don't have those who will just project, but those who will execute. And come November, you have to decide if you're going to play that crazy game called ideological politics, the politics of who you think you support, as opposed to those who will support your interests, those who will vote your interest. It is time to wake up. It is time for you to say, you know what? I will do the right thing. This isn't black and white. We have votes. We have policies that we can see in action. We have in West Texas, we have oil bubbling out of the ground and polluting groundwater. We have pools of sludge coming back to the surface because our EEQC is not doing its job. These are things that when they fail because of lack of regulation, appropriate regulations, cannot be mitigated when it's too late. We are responsible for the government we elect. And with that, let's go to our first call.
We spend a lot of time deconstructing. All right. There we go. All right, folks. I hope you enjoyed that. Anyhow. Yeah, I got audio now, my friend. Bruce Pollard joined us, and a few more people joined us. Para ver qué más tengo aquí. I want to read something I saw from Bridge MCP, but Carl Cox says CSEC and Hayes are proud members of the. Huh. I won't get that explosive, Cox. I'll leave that up to you. Let's see. Carl Cox also points out the line that several folks are doing on the board right now. But Bridge says, Egberto Willis, if you want to read this, New York Times op-eds. What is Trump? This is from the New York Times via Bridge. What is Trump teaching our children? He is everything we teach our children not to be. In Trump's world of immorality, the lessons being taught under all those principles parents struggle to instill. Or rather, let me read that right. In Trump's world of immorality, the lessons being taught undo all the principles parents struggle to instill. He is teaching our children that there is no absolute truth, there is alternative fact. It is not what you say, but how you say it and how vociferously you can defend it. He is teaching little boys that women's bodies exist as playgrounds for privileged men and that there is no price to be paid if you are popular enough or rich enough. He is teaching little girls that if they are ever victims of sexual assault by a popular wealthy boy or deemed to reveal it, they will likely to come under withering verbal assault. He is teaching our children that the color of one's skin does indeed supersede the content of one's character. He is teaching them that there is a skin color hierarchy in which whiteness is perched on top. He is teaching the black and brown children that their citizenship and connection to this country is tenuous and fractional, not like white children. He is teaching them that it is perfectly normal to separate some children from their parents, put them in cages, and argue that they don't need soap or toothbrushes or have the lights turned off so that they can go to sleep. He is teaching them to never acknowledge an error, that apologizes for sucker or apologies are for suckers, that what's right is whatever you say it is. Wow. I couldn't have said that any better. That is perfecto, perfecto, perfecto. I've got one other video to show, but that is one piece of artful prose right there, Breach. I love it. Thank you for bringing that one up. Again, those people who have kids that are voting for Donald Trump, they have a lot to answer to their kids. That's over 70 million Americans. I don't know how many of those are parents, but they have a lot to answer to their kids. Let's go ahead and play my second video right now, and then we'll move on. Paravet, 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 paravet. Here we go. The mainstream media simply should drive most of us crazy. And let me explain. It is imperative for us to understand something here. Nobody has asked Donald Trump any serious questions, but they don't ask the serious questions, because they understand that Donald Trump is incapable of answering them. And of course, as what bullies will do is he likely snap back or do what he did in the 60-minute interview several years ago, where he simply walked out. So let's be clear here. There isn't equity here in the way these two candidates are treated. Now let's start this way. Yesterday, Kamala Harris went on to 60 Minutes to discuss, to do what every presidential candidate does on 60 Minutes every year. Donald Trump copped out. He decided he doesn't want to do it. And one of the reasons that he doesn't want to do the 60-minute interview is he doesn't want to be fact checked. But of course, you do interviews, and all your interviews should be fact checked. And a real news media would fact check you to make sure, as a news program, what they're doing with their audience is presenting to their audience a something the audience can say, okay, this is what the candidate said. These are the questions that the host asked. And then we analyze whether these are true. And if you take a look at what happened with Kamala Harris and the CBS interviewer, as she's speaking, there are times that they cut in and they give a more expansive view based on actual news. That's what a news program is supposed to do. And by the way, they didn't in doing their fact checks on Kamala Harris, they didn't find anything that she said that was a lie or whatever. They may not have agreed with the way that she said she would solve certain things. But one of the things that irks me mostly is the difference in treatment that someone like Kamala Harris would get. Even within this 60-minute interview, the way she was handled by the host showed a bit of disrespect, the way he interrupted her, as opposed to how they deal with Trump, as she's given an answer. But pardon me, Vice President, what I'm asking you is, hey, it is fine to do that if that is how you deal with every single presidential candidate. My contention is, and provably so, is that they take more liberties when it's women, specifically when it's someone like Kamala Harris. I want you to, but you know, the thing is, she answered the questions. There was no question left unanswered. Whether you like the answers or not, that's debatable, but she answered the question. And that's why it was disconcerting for me to see how Andrea Mitchell, a reporter that, while I think is sort of on the conservative side, to everyone who is honest, she picked up a right-wing talking point. I want you to listen to this, and then we'll take it on the other side. It's very short.
Vice President Harris is amping up her media blitz again today, appearing on The View this morning. She'll join Howard Stern in the next hour. Then tonight, she'll be on The Late Show with Stephen Colbert. The interviews follow her sit-down, of course, with 60 Minutes, where she targeted Donald Trump for backing out of doing an interview with the program. But with just 28 days to go, some voters still feel they don't know enough about the vice president. When pressed about immigration, the economy, paying for her policies, the vice president appeared to struggle with her answers. Democratic National Committee Chairman Jamie Harrison. Great to see you, Chairman Harrison. Well, less than a month to go. The nonpartisan committee to protect the budget says Donald Trump's proposals would add more than $7 trillion to the debt, but hers would add more than $3 trillion. So he's not being specific at all. Let me, posit that. Does she have to be more specific? Are people demanding more from her because they don't know her as well?
Now, hear ye. She said, Andrea Mitchell did,
say that somehow Kamala Harris had some problems answering questions about how she would pay for the programs that she wanted. Or, there is not one question that CBS showed her answering where she had any problem whatsoever telling what her beliefs were and pointing out what she intended to do. There was absolutely no question left unanswered. Moreover, in when he asked her how is she going to pay for it, she expressed it. She said, I am going to raise taxes on those people who have pretty much gotten a free ride all this time. So, question asked, question answered. Do you want to know how much of that is going to be capital gains tax? How much of that is going to be raised income tax? How much of that will be an excise? That is done when you're putting policy together. She gave the framework, a framework that Donald Trump is unable to articulate. Now, here is the other thing that we ought to be cognizant about, because this is very important. He then threw a wrench in. Hey, what happens about the Senate? Meaning many people sort of have the belief that the Senate is going to flip. I mean, I know they're concerned about where Tester is in the race, and I think the Wisconsin race has been called a toss-up now. Of course, they don't put into the equation that Texas is is on the margins right now, as well as Alcacel in Florida, which could actually be, we could have a great night in which our Senate is +2, or we could have a lousy night where we are -2, right? I mean, you don't know. I mean, it all depends on turnout. And if we get the turnout that we are expecting, we are going to blow past all the projections that we've had thus far. But let's get real. The bottom line is she answered the questions completely. And when she was thrown a curve, she also answered it. They asked her about immigration. She pointed out a statement of fact. The fact is they got a bipartisan agreement that a conservative bipartisan agreement that Donald Trump commanded to his peons that they don't pass. But we can go a bit further. He asked her, wait a minute, but you were in office for 3 years already. Why didn't you do something in the beginning before you quadrupled the flow of undocumented workers here? And there are two answers, right? One is, number one, I am not the president. Number two, the president sent me to do a job that I did, and that job took some time before the results are noted. But more importantly, everybody talk about CBS asking the right questions. Why don't CBS, who should have the body of knowledge, point out what the real reason is for the influx of people into the country? I mean, CBS has all the reports that understand the answers. They understand what the issues that we have done overseas. They understand the technicalities that could actually mitigate these types of flows of people if we took care of what Kamala went to Guatemala to do and to these other Central American countries to do. So again, it is clear to me that many a times these confounded reporters, many a times these reporting agencies, they're simply in the bag for the plutocracy with a semblance, a facade of being objective. But the reality is we know what the answers are, and they do too. Now, if they would just report what things are, it would be fine. So as far as Andrea is concerned, Andrea was completely wrong for stating she had trouble answering a question. I wonder if it were a man, if she would have said the same. She had no trouble answering any of the questions. That the Vice President of the United States did very well. And that is an objective statement based on the video of the interview you can go watch at the CBS website.
We spend a lot of time deconstructing the news, trying to parse it into a form that everybody can understand. We try to find those little nitpicks where it flies above the fray, etc. If you really like these videos that we do, I want to ask a big favor. Please go ahead. Number one, subscribe to our channel. And number two, please join if you can. Thank you so kindly for watching. Keep watching. Please remember to share. We must populate the entire internet with our progressive message, a message that we know is what most Americans say that they want. So help us, please join.
Absolutely join. Absolutely join, folks. Anyway. Para ver. It was a good interview. She held her own, as did Walt. Yeah, I think I was happy with the interview. I I thought it went much better than I expected it to go because I like her answer about fracking. I like her answer about Medicare for all of that in one. She gave a one encompassing answer. I noticed, people laughed at first, the first time she talked about not changing her values. But when she tied the changing her values with speaking to people around the country and meeting people where they are to get things done that can actually get done, that is the smartest move because not once did she say, I'm against Medicare for all. I'm for fracking. What she's saying is, I have got to compromise. My values haven't changed, but I live in a society where my values are not the sole values. That is one of the most intelligent answers one could give there. And you know what? It pays. With regards to the betting markets flip and flop all the time. Let's remember that Hillary Clinton was really up on the Bowden markets. Our electoral college system makes it very, very, very difficult, very difficult for the betting when the election is this close. But well, when the polls say the election is this close, I still contend that there's a sleeping giant, and we'll see it on November 5th. Bruce says, Eric, I will agree with you. You got to finish the sentence, Bruce. W, what is it? W, what is it? Anyway, people change as they gain knowledge. Exactly. And again, Medicare for all is as defined by they changed the number now. It's no longer 1476 or whatever it was. They changed the number. But here's the deal. Medicare for all is the only sensible option, bar none. It's the efficient action. It's a mathematical action. Anyway, time caught up with us again. So I need to ask those of you who are watching the program right now to please become supporters of our program. And how can you become a supporter of the program? You can become a supporter of the program and in many forms. Just go to politicsandright.com/support, politicsandright.com/support, and that gives you many different ways in which you can help us fund this program. But right now, I'm also asking those of you who are not paid subscribers of our newsletter, Egberto Off the Record, I'm asking you to please become paid subscribers of our Egberto Off the Record. And how do you do that? Go to politicsandright.com/newsletter, politicsandright.com/newsletter. Please become a paid subscriber. It's like giving us a coffee. And what that does is it allows us to continue doing what we're doing. This is a lot. I'll be honest, it's a lot of work. It's my life in putting all of this together. 16 hours a day. 16 hours a day. And I do this out of love of who we are and who we say we are. And understanding that many of us, notice what I'm saying, many of us must make this sacrifice for the country. So, for those of you who have the wherewithal, please again consider becoming a paid subscriber of our newsletter. We give you a lot of fringe benefits for becoming a paid subscriber. And how do you do that? You go to politicsandright.com/newsletter to become a paid subscriber. All right, folks, I got to get out of here. Thank you so kindly for being here. Love all of you. Love my PDR posse. You guys are the best. You guys are the bomb. Let's keep supporting that which helps everyone, that which tells the truth. My name is Egberto Willies. This is Politics Done Right, and you guys know how I end this baby. I am what?
Welcome to Politics Done Right, I am your host, Egberto Willies. This is a progressive program that will take the mystery out of politics. This is the program that will encourage you to make sure government becomes we the people. Whether you are liberal, progressive, conservative, or otherwise, you get to air your point of view. We are an independent media outlet that, unlike mainstream media beholden to corporations, we only owe allegiance to you. Remember, you can also send me a tweet at EGBERTOWILLIES. That is at Egberto Willies. Let us engage. It is politics done right.